Hi, everybody, it's Lori Lowe, and welcome to the companion video for week 1 of the Sacred Binge online study course, in which we're going to be working with this terrific online course by Tara Brach, Healing Harmful Habits and Addictions. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and just jump right in for you guys here. And I am just very excited about this particular course. Those of you that have signed up to kind of do it with me, I'm so grateful because, part of the whole experience of having a binge eating disorder is being able to share that openly and without shame with other people. So this particular session, this companion video, is for the first module in the Tara Brach course, which is coincidentally called Attachment. So I want to start by talking about the goals for the study course to begin with. My goal with the Sacred Binge is to bring the phenomenon and the experience of binge eating disorder, food use disorder, compulsive overeating, serial dieting, yo-yo dieting, whatever you want to call it. I want to bring that into the light. I've been on and off diets and lost hundreds of pounds for over 50 years. And it wasn't until I said, you know what, I'm just not going to diet anymore, that I was able to start to look differently at my disorder and actually say out loud that I had one and not have it be this really shameful thing. So the course that we're going to work on together for the next 5 weeks, the Tara Brach course, that was instrumental in helping me look at myself without shame and really change my thinking about my disorder and to look at it with curiosity and compassion. And that's led to this goal of the Sacred Binge podcast, the platform, is that I want all of us to understand that this is a disorder that we don't have to feel like it's something wrong with us. It is something that has happened to us, and we can deal with it in a new and compassionate way that doesn't just have to be about losing weight. And through the process of this course, we're going to learn that we can have a different response to old signals related to compulsion, craving, compulsive overeating, etc. Within a community of supportive people. One of the #1 criteria for success in changing behavior around food and food addiction, binge eating, is community, is having like-minded people who help us understand that we're not alone, but also give us feedback and share their own experiences with us. It's really a profound change. So without further ado, let's just jump right into the module. So the Tara Brach module was broken up into 3 lessons this week. The first module, Attachment. The first lesson was called Wanting is Necessary, but Clutching is Painful. So granted, Tara Brach is, as I've said in the introduction of, the written introduction of this course, is a Buddhist practitioner, a meditation teacher, and a clinical psychologist that specialized in using meditation and awareness to actually heal binge eating disorder. And so this idea that when we want something that we don't get, that is the source of pain for all of us. And Tara describes it in a Buddhist philosophy, which is called the hungry ghost syndrome. And those are beings that have huge mouths, really long, tiny necks, and huge bellies. So the idea is that they can never get enough in to satisfy the wanting of these huge bellies. And when you think about the phenomenon of being a binge eater, that's a very similar experience. There is this feeling that I'm constantly hungry, I'm constantly missing something, I'm constantly dissatisfied. And obviously most of us grew up without food insecurity, so we had the food we needed. It's not a literal, I'm hungry and I don't have enough to eat. It is an emotional and spiritual hunger that is never fulfilled, that we learn through we learn to fulfill by developing other patterns of behavior. If we have chronic dissatisfaction emotionally and spiritually, and we're feeling always starved, we develop chronic patterns to try to meet those needs. Some of us can get into alcohol, drugs, gambling, sex addiction, shopping, cleanliness, whatever. The one that landed on me is binge eating disorder, compulsive overeating, and a constant search of pleasure, and that repetitive feeling of chewing and swallowing, the addictive response of sugary and highly carb and processed foods in my brain is the pattern that I landed on to try to deal with this constant emotional dissatisfaction. Now, in kind of further study groups and online with the Sacred Binge, we talk about how to really help identify what it is. And actually further along in this course, we're going to be identifying what it is that we are starving for. What is the thing that we are not giving ourselves that makes us turn to something else that we get hooked on, that gives us that hit of pleasure and satisfaction, albeit for the short term, that we then create a pattern around. But right now, what I want us to understand in terms of just getting into this is that that is happening to us. That is the phenomenon of being a binge eater, is this chronic dissatisfaction that we have found very maladaptive ways to cope with, chronic maladaptive patterns that help us feel good in the short term, but create a disorder within ourselves in the long term. Not to mention, for most of us, it also leads to being overweight. So there's this kind of body shame and, all that kind of crap that goes with it. I really don't feel like my binge eating disorder got started because I felt fat or anything. I had traumatic trauma going on in my life, and the side effect of developing the eating disorder to try to soothe that pain, the side effect of that was being an overweight kid and an overweight adult and a serial dieter for my whole adult life. So when we get caught in that, that's what creates that pain. We get caught in both the habit of soothing ourselves that way, but we get caught in the habit of wanting it to be different by focusing on the diet, by focusing on our weight as the problem, by wanting to be thin. If I'm thin, I can be absolutely perfect. But the reality is that's not how it works. We've got to talk about that core wanting that is making us develop that disorder that creates so much shame in us. And so it is okay to want things to be different. Let's go back to the topic here. Wanting is necessary, but clutching is painful. It is okay to want to be who we really are. It's okay to want to be loved and valued and accepted. It is okay to want to be healthy and well, but clutching at it and hooking on it over and over and over again is the painful part of that. But when we allow ourselves to experience what we really want, what we're really hungry for, that's how we begin to know ourselves and heal ourselves. So that was my takeaway from the first part, the first section in the Tara Brach module was, this idea that I developed these chronic patterns to deal with chronic dissatisfaction. And then I focus on hooking around that dissatisfaction and that chronic pattern of binge eating, rather than just stopping and saying, hey, I want something different. My life doesn't satisfy me. What is that, and how can I change it? Okay, so by the way, as you're going through and watching this video, please track comments in the Facebook post or in YouTube. Track comments and participate with me in terms of understanding and using this content. Okay, the second part of this first module of attachment is, and this is a really painful one for so many of us with binge eating disorder, is we feel like we should be able to control this. We feel like, dang it, I should just be able to go on a diet. I should just stop eating. I should exercise more. I should shove away my plate. I should fast. I should do keto. I should do paleo. I should do intermittent fasting. I should do mindful eating, intuitive eating, all that kind of crapola that is designed to somehow stop that hooked or chronic behavior we've developed. When in actuality, the thing we need to focus on is the behavior that started us, that dissatisfaction and lack of having what we really want, that started us on the road to being a binge eater. even if it was when you were 2 years old, like me, which is kind of my earliest memory of sitting in front of the Christmas tree after I raided my mother's baking supplies and eating lumps of brown sugar. 2 years old. I'm stealing food and eating it in private because I'm ashamed. So, you know, that we have got this terrible curse on us, especially if you're a binge eater, because we feel like we should be able to control it. Other people seem to have successful diets. Heck, every diet weight loss commercial I see has a testimonial from somebody who's lost all this weight and kept it off, whatever. And we feel like we should just be that person. But that's never it, because it is focusing on giving ourselves the wrong thing. If losing weight took care of all the reasons we got fat or started to be a binge eater to begin with, then we'd all be done by now. The first time we lost weight, it would be done. We would be over it. But it is what is the cause of that desire to choose this repetitive chronic behavior pattern that does not serve us? That's what we've got to focus on. And we believe that we're just weak and we have no willpower. So interestingly, there's another book that I've been reading recently that talks about willpower as a finite resource. We should just have the willpower. But the reality is that only goes so far. It's literally our will and power over our own will, which is, you know, we should just be able to bend ourselves to our own will. That's exhausting, and that is a finite resource. So if we are exhausted, tired, hungry, physically hungry, whatever, our willpower is just out the window. And it's not just us, because we have binge eating disorder. It's flipping everybody. Everybody's willpower can just get shot to heck at the end of a long, exhausting day when you're working a full-time job and raising kids and traveling and cleaning the house and doing whatever it is that is part of your regular day. So willpower, I hate that term because it implies that you are the problem because you don't have willpower. No, we are not the cause of the suffering. It is the attachment to that chronic behavior of binge eating in response to some core hurt or trauma that we are trying to soothe ourselves over. That is the cause of our suffering. It's the cause of our weight loss, if you think, excuse me, if the cause of our weight gain, if you think about it. It's a symptom of the weight on our body. Or rather, the weight on our body is the symptom of the suffering that we experience by not being in touch with what really nourishes and feeds us. There's a ton of shame around all of this, that we're addicted to behaviors that provide short-term relief but cause all these side effects, weight gain. We have to fail on our diet in front of God and everybody. You know, over the years, as I visit friends and relatives who only see me once every couple of years, this year they see me really skinny. Next year they see me with an extra 60 pounds on, and vice versa, and some variation of that for my whole life. And it is so humiliating because there is this terrible anxiety about being seen as weak and the cause of our own suffering and not having willpower. And God darn it, we should just be able to control ourselves. So there's a tremendous amount of shame. And I was also a secret eater too. I even am to a certain extent now. Binging isn't binging for me unless I can kind of sequester my way itself into private to do it. But you know, there's just so much shame around this that we can't even get close to the cure for it because we're just trying to protect ourselves from this awful, terrible shame of being somebody who just goes through this over and over and over and over again. Wow. Okay. So the final lesson in this week's module that I want to discuss with you in Tara's course is the ability to stop spinning through the shame of feeling the want of having this desire to binge eat, feeling that craving, feeling the desire that it's so, or the belief that it's so shameful, we've got to do it in secret, and, you know, sequestering ourselves away to be able to have that secret private experience with binging. What happens if we just bring that all out into the light, guys? What happens if, like I've done, I just say out loud to anybody who watches this video or any of my other videos that I've done, I have binge eating disorder. I'm a serial dieter. I've been on and off diets for 50 years. My earliest memory is stealing sugar, brown sugar from my mom's cupboard and eating it. I lived alone as an adult a majority of my life because if I had roommates, I couldn't binge in secret. My whole life was kind of built around protecting myself from the shame of this disorder that I have. And it was only when I stopped and said, oh, no more shame, that I've been able to see what happened to me. Where did that desire to use food to create satisfaction come from? What was that original unmet need? What was that original hurt place or trauma or desire that was thwarted, that I learned at a very young age to turn to food in order to feel some kind of satisfaction or comfort? Wow. So also in this lesson in Tara's course, she goes through a practice meditation in which we try to visualize ourselves wanting. So I'm going to invite you to do that now. Can you really put it out there, even if just in your own mind? I'm not saying you got to go out to all your friends and family as a binge eater right now, but I think you do have to take a moment just with yourself and say, oh my gosh, I want something. I'm not getting it. What does it feel like when I want? What is my posture of wanting? When I think about, the experience of wanting to overeat, I literally get this, like I'm pulled. It feels the craving is so intense. And something else, I'm going to introduce a term here, which I'll use a lot in our subsequent study materials, is the experience of mouth hunger. I know other people have talked about this, but my experience of mouth hunger is it's all right here in my throat and right here in my mouth. And you think about the hungry ghost syndrome that we talked about earlier, the skinny, tight throat and the big belly that can never be satisfied. It's almost like this, for me, is physically where that craving is. It's this wanting, and it's this wanting. And so when we just witness it, we can sit quietly and feel it. We can then have an opportunity to notice it before it's happening, as it's happening, or even after it's happened. All of those are legitimate places to stop and witness. And for me, guys, that is what I call the sacred binge. It is the experience of the binge wanting behavior and feeling it and knowing it. And when we can pay attention to it and watch ourselves all the way through it, beginning to end, no matter what you choose to do, that's what makes this one of the most profoundly spiritually healing things that you can have in your life. Can you imagine that this binge eating disorder that you've had your whole life is actually your ticket to spiritual healing, to being your authentic self, to being who you really are, because you've identified what that thing is that you really want, that thing you've been wanting since you were whenever. And you can figure out, okay, if I can see this, can I change that chronic pattern that I've had of just going and eating something? Can I change my relationship to this feeling of hunger right here? And can I give myself what Tara Brach talked about in her course, that magic quarter second, where I can stop and say, I'm wanting. Just witness the wanting. That is the lesson this week. As you go through this week after having consumed Tara's course, excuse me, speaking of wanting made me hiccup. Think about it in terms of just being so curious and compassionate. If you eat something great, if you don't eat something great, can you make it a witnessed experience? Can you make it that sacred experience to learn about yourself through the whole thing? The other thing that I want you to do is, if you decide to not eat something, don't do it with the idea that, oh, well, now I'm going to lose weight because of this. Weight loss is just a totally different bag of bones here, guys, from understanding what it is you really want and taking that quarter second to say, I'm hungry. Can I do something different? It's not, can I finally stick to a diet? It's, can I do something different that allows me to break this chronic habit of using food to satisfy myself for this tiny little moment in time, because there's something else that I really want that I've not learned yet how to give myself. So, okay, so that's what I have as a companion for this week's module of Tara Brach's great course, Healing Harmful Habits and Addictions. You're welcome to just listen to this, but I really invite you to take Tara's course. It's $49. Again, I have the link to the course in this. Actually, it was on the first page of the of my presentation I did here, but it's certainly posted here in the Facebook group and in my YouTube post. As well as I now have a meetup group, which you're welcome to join me in that meetup group if you want. Just search on the Sacred Binge within Meetup, and that group's going to come up. So remember, the goal is to witness this week. Just witness and know that everything that you've ever thought about managing overeating, managing your weight, managing dissatisfaction with your body, you got to give it all up because you've been focused on the wrong thing the whole dang time. Witness the wanting, feel that mouth hunger. As I'm talking about it now, I'm feeling it. I want to go eat a banana peanut butter sandwich, but we'll see what happens. But I'm witnessing the hunger. So my love to you, my blessings, namaste. There's something really great going on here, this Sacred Binge movement. I'm so excited. Please make sure that anybody you think needs to hear about this hears about it, has a chance to participate in the course. You can join any way along the way in these 5 modules that we're going to do. So we started here today, January 23rd, 2023. We're going through, I believe it's February 20th, with our 5 modules from Tara Brach's course that we're going to watch offline and then have a study group together online. This is my companion video. There'll be a live Zoom call later today, 6:30 p.m. Pacific time, January 23rd, 2023. Again, the link to the Zoom is in this meeting. There's actually a Facebook event, there's a meetup group, and then there's a link in the YouTube channel. Lots of platforms going on, guys. Again, I'm very excited to get this information to you. I'll stop babbling. Enjoy all of your feedback and comments on this material. Really want you to join it with me. Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.